Okay, real privilege to be here once again.
It's not this?
Yeah, we're in Kesser, Dovid still.
Okay, fine, I have a copy.
Good.
The show's a copy.
First of all, it's Rosh Chodesh, so Chodesh Tov to all. Shvat, Sheb Surus Tovos. I don't know, we just can't keep up with Dr. Rosner. He just came out with volume number 5 of Rabbi Yitzchak Zilberstein's responsa. The Hebrew is 5 volumes. Dr. Rosner, Mitzvah will be putting out 9 volumes that will cover all of the responsa, one more fascinating than the next. Number 5 just came out. I don't know how you do it. And number 6 is well in the making. So we're moving along. I think he puts them out faster than we can read them.
I've been doing this for 30 years. Translating.
We may have to go.
Translated Mordechai Halpern's book on medical halacha into English.
I think we're going to quote him today. As I mentioned, Torah Tidbits has been running. They already ran the 3rd piece on medical malpractice. Pretty much very well aligned with what we've discussed. There was a little bit of a mistake last week where he wrote exactly the opposite of what he wanted to say. Fortunately, this week he didn't put it in the correction, but in virtue of what he wrote, it was corrected that in principle you cannot sue a doctor. That's the principle. We'll go from there. Dr. Katz very much wanted to join us for a siyum on Kesser Dovid that we were hoping to make this Thursday night, but unfortunately it just didn't work out.
Next Sunday you'll be away.
Next Sunday we'll be away again, unfortunately. Dr. Glassman is away. We will continue today on the study of medicine and dentistry by Kohanim. I think I mentioned last time, we found a little Kesser Dovid, sort of a dental halacha chazal book in the attic in London, 1943. It is in Yiddish. It is also by Dr. Katz. He is a dentist, I found out. And we've made copies, so anyone who's interested in getting a copy, we'd be happy to share that with you. So again, next week, for latecomers. And I think it's really great those who come to the share, even those who are listening, because we know you have choices, and everyone has busy schedules. And we will move along. I think just having this will get a little bit delayed to those who are receiving it on
You want
the
a copy of the book?
telecommunication end because Dr. Glassman is away. Let's continue.
Back in here.
We're on page 274. We do have a little wrap up to do yet on this chapter of medicine and dentistry by Kohanim. And I say it over and over and over again. The subject itself is fascinating, but more important, I think, is also, or not less important, is the dynamics of the sugyas, to see the sensitivity and the issues that the poskim of our generation have to deal with. I really do hope that we will be able to get a Mashavai Slita for the siyum on Kesser Dovid. When Dr. Katz will be here again, I'm not sure. It would be great if he could join us as well. So on page 274 on the bottom, Rav Mordechai Cohen. Wow, you think he's got a year? Rav Mordechai Cohen, 1964, was asked by a Cohen medical student who had become observant while already in school. Here's the real issue. It's one thing if somebody is asking, can he go to medical school? Or be one level of dental school. But what if he's already there? I don't want to elaborate, but I had a fellow who, since 1st grade, all I can remember, he was the class doctor. He was going to be a doctor. He was going to be a doctor. And when, what was his name? Salk, Jonas Salk, he had a special lecture. We raffled off in school 2 tickets to go meet with him. The fellow who invented the polio vaccine. And this fellow and myself ended up going. And he didn't get into medical school, and then he tried again, didn't get into medical school, and he figured if I could get in, he could get in. So he tried a 3rd time and he got in. And he studied his 4 years of school and did his residency, his internship. He was now 6 months away from his psychiatric residency, finishing up his psychiatric specialty, and he had me take him to one of the Gedalia Yisrael. Well, I was shocked, looked at him in the face and said, "Do you want to be a doctor?" And he just repeated the statement a few times. He broke down crying. And I went back to America. I found he was working, he was not actually, but no one ever confronted him. And he had deep reasons. His parents were divorced, and he wanted to understand the relationship better. And he went on to be an insurance broker, and finally became a lawyer. But what I'm saying is, the fortitude that one would need to give up medical school or dental school at this stage of the game is not easy. So it comes about tshuva, and I cited before my good friend who was chozer b'tshuva in dental school.
He became a lawyer or an engineer?
Well, he became a lawyer, the other fellow. And this fellow finally met a nice religious girl, and so he was sort of hanging on who he would meet. Not realizing that as a Kohen he could not marry a grusha, a divorcee. And I remember all that ensued. I was personally involved with Prof. Feinstein on that, but we'll leave that. So Mordechai Cohen.
So that's who he found as a divorcee?
He found a divorcee, right, that's what he found. He wasn't looking, but that's what he found. It appeared clear to Rav Cohen that the young man was sincere and was altruistically motivated to help people and save lives. This is the key, to save lives. Would we consider going to medical school pikuach nefesh? Is there a mitzvah to go to medical school? And I always remember Moshe Feinstein used to say that one is not obligated to drive up and down the FDR drive to find somebody who is in an accident to save his life. If you've studied medicine, and the Gra, in fact, who studied...
It says you're not mechuyev to make a lot of money, so you can give a lot of stock.
Very good. Good analogy. But, like we'll see here, some people feel compelled. They're in a position to make more money, and it's not a matter of for themselves, but they love giving. And here's a medical student, we'll see later in Rav Goren's tshuva, he was born to be a doctor. It was almost pikuach nefesh for him not to be a doctor. Can we find a loophole there? And this man, young man, so Rabbi said there's no mitzvah. So the Gra learned all 70 chokhmas, all 70 areas of knowledge, engineering, mathematics. He even learned medicine, but he writes that he did not learn practical medicine. He only learned theoretic medicine, because his father said if he learned medicine, then he would be obligated
To use it.
to use it, to close the safer. We'll see that a little bit closer later. I'll bring you a personal anecdote regarding that. In any case, on 275 on top, after reviewing all the issues that have been discussed, he repeats Rav Greenwald's opinion that the study of medicine utilizing cadavers has presented issues for all Jews and not just Kohanim, as we saw, for hundreds of years. It's not just a carte blanche to go and dissect a cadaver. Kohanim have the additional prohibition of contact with the dead. However, he opines that the fundamental and heavily weighed factor of possibly saving of a life, pikuach nefesh, certainly enables a posek to rely on leniencies that are considered a minority view. Wow. So here we've got, I think, our first biggie. Since ultimately, and we talked about here, Hanav Amaze, and Halonas Amaze, and Nivel Amaze, all types of things that apply even to a non-Kohen, but ever more so for a Kohen. So in the middle of the next paragraph, from the perspective of Pikuach Nefesh, he sees no reason not to apply the same logic which allows us to override 3 prohibitions related to corpse dissection by a Jewish non-Kohen student to a Kohen, even considering the additional prohibition attached to it. So he says, you know what? You're not allowed to dissect a cadaver. We're relying on all kinds of leniencies to do so. Well, the Kohen has the same leniencies, and he cites 2 or 3 of them. And I believe this is the footnote, sort of the Kesser Dovid. If we allow 3 prohibitions for pikuach nefesh, what is the difference of 2 or 3 more? In any case,
Does it
this
matter which
is
branch-
Rav Mordechai Cohen.
Does it matter which branch of medicine he's going to go? He's going to go into.
It's a very good question. That must be a very good question. I always ask myself, when it says Urapi, does that apply to a dermatologist?
Yeah.
It can't be life-threatening. A radiologist, I mean, there's certainly cases there as well. And one of the questions that comes up often is dentistry included in that? So first of all, I think that, I may be wrong, probably 90% of doctors are not directly involved with pikuach nefesh. Could it happen? Sure. You know, I had one woman who came to me.
ICU doctors.
Okay, well, here we're talking about a general practitioner or a dermatologist or a urologist
Or an ER.
or a ear, nose, throat doctor or a dentist. Forgive me for listeners, I never understood why someone would go so many years to school to give cortisone cream in dermatology. So if you're questioning dentistry, I question dermatology. But guess what? Lives have been saved in dermatology. Melanomas are a misnomer. They are very aggressive. I personally have family who died from them, and often too many people do die from them, and some lives are not saved.
I thought they were considered very aggressive.
They're very aggressive. They're very good. Usually, omas are non-aggressive. Melanoma is an exception. It is very aggressive. They say melanoma is a misnomer.
I see, I didn't realize
In any case,
ninth convention.
do we consider it a not direct, not pikuach nefesh in front of me now, a leniency to go ahead, and we'll see later, Moshe Feinstein cannot buy such a thing. In any case, when Moshe Feinstein was approached about this issue by Rav Shimon Schwab, who was disturbed by two lenient opinions circulated by individuals in his community, such as Rav Mordechai Cohen. He was the famous Rav in Washington Heights of the Yekka community. Beautiful Sefer, Beis HaShoeva. This is in a Sefer Adas Yeshurun, or that was the name of his kehillah was Adas Yeshurun. Rav Feinstein's response in 1974 was an unusually severe one, because it is so often cited, it demands a serious reading and analysis. Rav Feinstein opens with a statement that it is forbidden for a Kohen to defile himself, and he asserts that even if the greatest scholars of the generation would want to rule leniently, the matter would still be forbidden, as that ruling would be breaking with an established halachic tradition. Unlike an oft-quoted misrepresentation of his position, he then states clearly that it is forbidden for a Kohen to study medicine in schools that require him to defile himself by participating in the dissection of cadavers.
It seems pretty comical.
Seems pretty vigorous. Now, for those of us who come from there, you know, it's like saying in B'nai Brak, Chazon Ish. Chazon Ish doesn't ring us as much as Rav Moshe Feinstein.
Have you made cadavers that you can, plastic cadavers that you can touch?
Well, I've never seen them. They do have plastic skulls, but I've not yet heard of
They're not
plastic.
tummy, obviously.
They're not Tame. And Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach is a little bit closer to Rav Moshe Feinstein, but for the average Yerushalmi, it's Rav Elyashiv Zatzal. In any case, Rav Moshe Feinstein, who was the final word for us, again, and I quoted this in 1973, and I say it today, the Abia Omer says, writes in his tshuva, that in order for a, forgive me, lightning shouldn't strike me, and I'm not a posek, the psak halacha is not binding unless all or the majority of gedolim in the world would sit together, says Rav Yosef, and they would vote by majority. So today, if I hear a psak or Rav Shach, will I take it seriously? Very seriously. Will I think twice to rely on Rav Moshe Feinstein or Rav Shlomo Zalman if they disagree with him? No, certainly not if my thinking is aligned. Does Rav Moshe Weiss Shlita take the freedom to argue with sometimes anyone and everyone? The answer is yes.
Oh boy, does he sometimes.
Oh boy, does he sometimes. It would almost seem like Avraham Avinu. If everyone's be'ever echad, he's on the ever sheni. But he'll say Libi Omer. He'll even go as far as to say, Rav Moshe Weiss Shlita, do you say Tfilas Adar from Tel Aviv? He says depending on how I'm feeling at the time. which
So
is
like what, to go from Tel Aviv to Yerushalayim?
to say a Tfilas Haderech.
I was picked up
So
a
we
bar
do.
in the village in Coattail, you know, and as soon as he got in the car, he started saying, feel like there.
Okay, if I was in your car, I would also say Tfilas Haderech. He says what my wife says about my car. My surgical assistant told me the other day, she spoke up for some reason, and she said, your driving is the way you do surgery. I understood what she was talking about.
Compliment?
Well, it was a backhand. No, I mean, it was good, but a little bit, in any case, he contends that leniency cannot be based, 276. He contends that leniency cannot be based on stories of famous rabbis of previous generations. Oh yes, it feels that I wanted to bring the point at hand. I said to Shlomo Fisher once, based on the Mishnah Berurah, they also say you go to America, you should say bench Gomel, bless Gomel or not.
Yeah,
I believe Moshe
Tshuva says you should bench Gomel when you fly on a plane.
When you fly in a plane. Others say today flying a plane is safer than walking in the street. Okay? In any case, there are different opinions. We were of the opinion that you do say it. However, I know many people when they go to America, they say it and they come out. And I brought two pieces of logic. Again, this is Li B'Omer. So if I can find someone who agrees with my heart, then I'll go with it. Says the Mishnah Berurah that if you continue your journey within 30 days, you don't say it until the end of the journey. And if I'm going to America for 2 or 3 days on a round trip, to me that's considered one journey. And so I can't see saying in America when I get to America. Number two is that
when you get back to Israel.
So I say when I get back to Israel. Number two is that you don't say it. It says until you exited, you left the sakana. And as long as I'm in America, I'm still in the sakana, so I don't say it. In any case, Rav Shlomo Fisher Shlita should be well agreed. And based on that, again, a psak that I never saw anywhere, but if I make a round trip, I don't know what I would do if I was going the other way. I solved that problem by having all my round trips start in Israel and end in Israel.
And in Israel is no sakana?
That's
where you live?
Yeah, they asked that the Rosh
Especially on
Zalman,
the roads.
and he said it is not considered a Makom Sakana. So during the Gulf War, somebody asked him also about going back. He said, listen, if you need to go for your parents, say so. But if you need to go for Sakana, this is the safest place in the world. In any case, Kozum Bagarevi talks about it a lot. He says that you see that when in Eretz Yisrael there are gzeras, for example, that are very short-lived. They're all short. In Chutz La'aretz, he said they can go on indefinitely. It's the Kozum Bagarevi, not me. In any case, he maintains that these rabbi physicians, because of their great mental powers, were able to master their studies without any contact or visualization of a corpse. Visualization. Today you certainly can do it all virtual. There is no evidence that they were in the same physical structure where the bodies were kept. So we're surmising. The grandson of the Rosh, the Shvile Emunah, writes that the right eye has cords that attach it to the left brain and the left eye to the right. How do they know this stuff? Okay? The grandson of the Rosh. The Rambam also clearly. So they knew anatomy. But that you cannot conclude from that they were in the room. I once asked one of the Gedalia Yisrael, Shalom, how do you know this? How do you know that? And he starts talking to me about the college classroom and the new buttons in the Ford car. And he sat in his room with his eyes covered all his life. He said, it's like a puzzle. He said, everyone comes, thousands of people come to me with questions. And from their questions, I put together the picture of what's going on out there. So he had a clearer picture of what was going on than I had. So they were masterminds. Since this is not possible in our times, it is forbidden. So if you think you're a mastermind, Moshe Feinstein disagrees. He then critiques the arguments cited in the pamphlets forwarded to him. Pikuach Nefesh, and this is the clincher. Pikuach Nefesh, he argues, is only a consideration when the risk is immediately at hand. This is the rule of thumb. And not when the potential to save lives may occur sometime in the future. When I go to school for 10 years, I may be able to save a life in 10 years from now.
That's not a Yehuda, so Chol Lefanenu.
Chol Lefanenu. We talked about one of our first Shurim together. We talked about that, we talked about the cholera outbreak and other things. He also considers it erroneous to rely on tenuous leniencies based on the allowance to learn a trade and livelihood. It says that it's
Leibniz says you got to eat on Yom Kippur.
was Rabbi Yaakov Emden.
Yaakov.
But in any case, even though at the end of Kedusha we learn, and I have to take this opportunity, my friends to share a Chiddush that's close to my heart. Rav Neroy says, I leave all of the professions and I teach my son only Torah. That's Rav Neroy. Says Rav Meir, the olam yalamid adam is beno umanis nikiya v'kala. A person should teach his child a clean trade. Is medicine a clean, easy trade?
It's a more Kedusha.
I think dermatology is the end of Kedusha. The last off in Kedusha.
You got to treat him how to swim too.
Treat him how to swim.
Right.
So the last off in Kedusha. So is umnizir kala, I would say, dermatology, orthodontics, maybe. Okay? In any case, it's a machlokas. Is there allowed to be a machlokas? Can two people argue? Yeah. There's only one problem. And many years later, I was over to see that the Sfas Emes brings my problem in Shabbos. Rav Meir is Rav Neroy, they're the same guy.
What?
The same man. How could he argue on himself? He gives his answer. But I give an answer, I think a beautiful answer based on a Sam Sofer. Sam Sofer says that in Brachas, where there's an argument, should one learn or should one work? He says there's no machlokas. Kan be'eretz Yisrael, kan b'chutz la'aretz. In the diaspora, there's no mitzvah to work. Sit and learn. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give you parnasa. In Eretz Yisrael, Vasafta Ganecha, where working to learn is a mitzvah, he says, even an engineer, a builder, when a person he says in Shoftim on the pasuk of Mia Ish, and he says in Lulav HaGozel on the sugi of Esther Kikushi, he says that in Eretz Yisrael, where it's a mitzvah to work, when a person say, I'm not putting on tefillin today because I'm learning Torah, a person can't say. So I said, Rav Neroy was like Jackie, Frankie. That was his name in Chutz La'aretz. In Chutz La'aretz, in the diaspora, he said, sit and learn. Rav Meir, shedding light like Neroy, is his name in Eretz Yisrael. There he said that a person... Sheheir Einei Chama. Says in the resort of Kesser al the Lakod the Meir Einenu. Says the Marsha, he can't be talking about himself. He says, the God who lit up in the days of the darkness of Yovan, the Greek, he should shed light upon us. Let's get back to the light of, somebody told me beautiful, Rav Finkel, Zatzal of the Mir, son was my Mitayr of Binyamin, and he said to me, well, what are we talking about? Yeah, he asked me, why does it say in the bracha of Yortzeh Ma'oros, does it bring the bracha of Refuos? So he said maybe it was referring to laser dentistry, laser medicine, to medicine by light in Achris Yamin. It was a nice thought. Rabbi Yamin Finkel. Shlita. He then critiques the arguments. He argues, as we said. He also considers it erroneous to be lenient for trade and livelihood. It's a mitzvah. Sure, it's a mitzvah. But not a mitzvah to be over an isser. Citing analogy, he notes that just because a person is obligated to give charity, this does not license him to neglect his Torah study on the pretense that he must become wealthy in order to be able to become obligated to give more charity, like Dr. Rosner very well brought up. So it's a mitzvah to give charity. Let me close the Gemara. Let me become wealthy as I get the mitzvah. No. Talmud Torah can I get kula. I'm not talking about a person. I heard a beautiful quote also yesterday from Rav Goldstein Shlita. Goldstein from Shar Yosher. He told me that Yisachar Zvulun. Why do you have this deal, Yisachar Zvulun? Deals.
It's a good part.
Business deal. He said that not Zvulun. Yisachar was born with the genetic inclination for making deals, business deals. And so the Torah gave him the deal of his life, the Yisachar Zvulun deal. Now you made your deal, go back to learn. Even in situations of present Bikuv Nefesh, he writes, there is generally no need to override Torah prohibitions since there is no shortage of physicians or dentists in the world. A little bit difficult for me.
Yeah, but,
Part of it.
The patient can't be healed by any doctor.
Beautiful. It says here, can the doctor say, let me go sit and learn? There are enough doctors in the world. The Pesach and Halacha is no. Ze l'chara keneged halacha mefureshes b'yoredeya. So this statement, I'm not sure, is completely accurate. In any case, we're combining it with what he's trying to say over here. Rav Feinstein is severe in his criticism, stating that it's absolutely clear that a Kohen is prohibited from ritually defiling himself through contact with a corpse, and that even if the most learned rabbis in the world would be lenient, one should not listen to them. Wow. 100 on the bottom, and then we'll go back to our previous footnote.
Are we all Tomei?
After he kept it brought up. We learned that most of Rishonim hold that it is cumulative, that even if you're Tomei, you're not allowed to be Tomei again. We're going to see here a heter of Goren, which our mamish didn't understand. But if this one point where he said to put a metal chain on your neck, and since the metal is Tomei, you're already defiled. And my question is, and who allowed you to put the metal chain on? But in any case, we'll see that. Goren uses that.
Is there a difference in terms of adding to if you've already got the metal chain on, or we're just going?
Yes. Yeah. He wants to rely. He wants to rely on those who want to say that the Ravid does not stand alone. That there are others who agreed that it is not cumulative. But that, by and large, we saw that the psak of the poskim is that a Kohen can't go to the cemetery, as well as even though all Kohanim are defiled, they can't go to the cemetery. This statement, 100, was made clearly as a response to the recent ruling that had come.
In the cemetery on the outside.
Yeah. So this was a response to the recent ruling that had come to his attention, which, using Piyukur Nafesh as a factor to allow additional defilement, and Kohanim studying anatomy in the past had been used in past response advocating a Molini position. Let's go back to 97. Rav Feinstein, footnote 97. Rav Feinstein specifies schools where dissection is required and does not discuss the issue of attending a school where dissection is not required. Well, what could possibly be a problem there? And we added, because becoming a doctor, you have to do a residency, you have to do an internship, or you'll be in a hospital, and there you have dead people all the time. It continues to be the problem. The latter part of the sentence is often erroneously omitted.
You don't dissect people in the hospital.
Fine, but you're in the same room as a mace, especially in Eretz Yisrael, where the rove, hopefully the rove, unfortunately in some hospitals the majority is probably Arabs, like in Sfat.
They had.
Right, they have double doors.
They have a special little thing that's not under the same roof as the hospital, where they
Yeah, but people are dying in the rooms every
I know, they
day.
get them out of there quickly.
So if you're-
And then there's a room next to it, attached to that, where the relatives can sit until
So a
they have the
client can run
comes to
out.
take them.
But what is the client supposed to do every single day? A person dies in Sharet Tzedek, and he's putting himself in a position of psikresha. Anyway, we saw this in Rosh Hashanah's help. It's also, Rosh Hashanah said that a Kohen is not allowed to work in a hospital for that reason. On the bottom, the Encyclopedia Hilchos Refuos notes that several Talmudic sages, such as Reb Chaim ben Dosa and Reb Chanina ben Chama, were Kohanim and physicians. From the Middle Ages through the 1700s, almost 20 Kohanim are recorded as well-known physicians, among them eminent rabbis and scholars. However, the Encyclopedia makes note that the use of cadavers was arguably not incorporated as standard training until approximately the year 1800. So all these were quoted in the 1700s. The latest were before the era where they were dissecting. Okay, now we come to the biggie. Rav Shlomo Goren, Zatzal, in 1981, wrote a comprehensive and controversial. You know, Rav Goren and controversial almost go together, but he was brilliant. And you know what? Whether you hold him or not, it's very difficult to argue with him. But he wrote one of those controversial tshuvas in response to a question forwarded to him. The question read, I am a Kohen, student. Is it permissible to me to study medicine in a university outside of Israel? No, he stresses outside of Israel.
Which is already told.
if it obligates me to participate in the dissection of cadavers.
A lot of Israelis who don't go into Israeli medical schools go to Italy or
Right.
somewhere else in Europe.
Okay, well maybe for Cohen it would be preferable. Well, let's see. Although in this very lengthy and extremely detailed response, he lays a foundation to rule leniently. He states very clearly in his closing comments that his rulings are used only b'shas hadchak ve'ein shum moitza acher, in extreme circumstances where there's no alternative. And we'll see where that means. And when the desire of the student to study medicine is sincere and strong. Anyway, he reviews all the issues that we've been discussing the last week or two, or last session or two. Therefore, if a college student, and this I do not understand, wears a metal necklace that has touched a corpse, maybe I now understand it. Maybe I now understand it.
I mean, the idea that
He has a status of mechulul ba'omed because of ein tuma acher tuma. He's not saying to put on the necklace. He might be talking about if he's already wearing a necklace. So I didn't notice it till now. Okay, was on him.
So if he has,
Not-
if he has a penknife in his pocket,
Was right. Can put on him. So if he went to bought it in a store and the guy who sold him the jewelry touched it, and now the jewelry is defiled. So I misunderstood this all along. See how important it is to learn and reread and reread and reread. Again, if a college student wears a metal necklace, he didn't say put it on, because how are you allowed to put it on? In a chidami, how can a Kohen go to a store and buy jewelry for his wife and pick it up when the guy in the store defiled it? Wow, tough world.
Assume that the guy is talking.
We're not assuming.
everybody's
Everyone is
Everybody's
talking
talking about
today.
that.
Okay, he emphasizes, and this is one of his loopholes, that the lenient position of Ravid, as he understands it, that Kohanim in our time are not commanded to avoid, he says, defilement or redefilement, which is synonymous, and he says that the Ravid is not a lone position. In 104 on the bottom, in support of this assertion, he cites the Zera Avram, Shiltei Gebarim, Smag, Rabirutam, and Bahag. He is particularly sensitive to potential criticism that he is relying on the Das Yochen.
Yeah.
He said it
I
is
always thought it was
erroneous
a Das
to
Yochen.
say that it's a Das Yochen, as we learn. Rav Goren understands the Ravid as permitting defilement, unlike some Sofer and others who opine the Ravid prohibited defilement, either rabbinically or as a Torah position. So not everyone agrees that that is the Ravid's position. In any case, he was very sensitive to saying that it was a Das Yochen, it was a lone opinion. Additionally, he cites the opinions of the Shar Ephraim and Zera Avram, who allows Kohanim to study medicine because of Kavod Brios. Wow, Kavod Brios. Since we're talking about Dirabonon, rabbinical, it is therefore Kavod Brios, respect for humanity.
Why, he says that because you can't, he doesn't want to trust somebody else to do it without properly taking that into account? I mean,
I'm not
what's
sure.
the point?
What are you saying? I'm sorry.
You know, what's the point of
I guess the respect for humanity is you have a modern religious girl, I don't know what it would be, but a modern religious fellow who comes and the thought didn't even enter his mind, you know, like he took Kaplan's and he did all his preparations and he spent a fortune of money and he's studying and he comes to, you know, somebody said, I'll tell you a story. Yeshua, you like a story? If Yeshua, we have a story. We have a story for you. It could be that the Kavod Brios is telling this person, you know, you're a misfit, you're a Kohen, you were born with a mutation, and they could take it very hard. There was a girl in the Bay Yerushalayim many years ago who was here for the summer on a summer program, and I heard the story from Rav Eli Liff, and he was the madrich, he was in charge of the group, and this girl got pregnant during the trip, and she wanted to go have an abortion. So she came to Rav Eli Liff. I don't know how it came up in the conversation, and she said, why does she want to get an abortion? Because she's going to study medicine in September, and how's she going to be a lone mother in medical school with this child? You know, we might say based on all of this, you know, that Well, let's okay abortions for the study of medicine for people with nefesh, etc. But Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach was wiser. So Rav Eli Liffer was smart. He said, it could be dangerous sometimes. No, why don't you get a blessing from the rabbi? So she said, yeah, great, that would be great to have the abortion. So he didn't say you can't have an abortion. He said, why don't you get a blessing that everything should go okay? So they marched over to Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach Zatzal, and Rav Shlomo Zalman, she asked her question. Rav Shlomo Zalman said, why do you want an abortion? She said, well, I want to start medical school in September, and I said, why do you want to study medicine? What do you mean? I want to be greater than saving a human life. Whoa. He said, oh, I understand, and he gave her a blessing. Anyway, today she's a ultra-religious girl. She didn't have the abortion, and that girl already attended a seminary in Beis Yaakov in Yerushalayim. The daughter of this, I don't know if she became a doctor or not. In any case, back to reality. He further states that the ruling can be applied to allow Kohanim to visit hospitals in Israel, says Rav Goren, the issue that we brought up, that almost always contains Jewish corpses. To fly on airplanes without the fear of being exposed to tumah. Almost every flight, there's one flight a week, afternoon flight from Newark, that does not have bodies on it, and that does not fly over the cemetery in Cholon. Other than that, the other flights do. So Kohanim tried to take that flight. But he says, no, we have all these leniencies. He brings about 5 of them. You can review them on page 278. And he says it's okay to fly in airplanes without a fear of being exposed to tumah from a corpse being transported on the plane, to fly on an airplane over a cemetery, and lastly, to enter into a
in aluminum coffins.
They do, but that doesn't help.
The metals that
It's so close to the cadaver that the tumah goes all the way up. And lastly, to enter into a medical or dental school that almost always contains cadavers. We're not talking about touching the cadaver.
I mean, the building.
The building. Which many were matter because in 106, Rabbi Baruch Berkowitz, finds it difficult to accept Goren's solution allowing Kohanim to dissect cadavers. However, regarding Kohanim flying over cemeteries, since anyway there's a large room to be lenient among the sources, Tzvi, etc., it is possible that in cases of Shasat Chak, there's no question that a Kohen should try not to be on such a flight. One can add Rav Goren's solution by wearing a tummy ring on the flight for added leniency. Again, I don't understand why you would be allowed, I may be missing something here, to put on a ring. Or if they're wearing a ring,
It's like a necklace.
yeah, but what right, yeah, we'll see soon why maybe it is okay. It could be that the prohibition of...
metal necklace.
No difference. In fact, what the Gemara cites is a sword. But as we'll see, hopefully, from my helper that you translate his words, is that sword means any metal object. But we'll see. There is an added leniency. This would all be true. All my questions would be in place if it was totally agreed upon that touching a metal that was defiled is the same as touching a mason defiled. So let's see. Stay tuned. Levi Yitzchak Halperin in 2002, who writes that due to lack of clarity surrounding the positions of those poskim who have grown claims rule leniently, these positions cannot be combined for a general heter. Wow, how diplomatic. For a general heter. 107, among the arguments he states, most poskim applying to a bit of time prohibits a coin from the problem the day after having contact with the corpse. And Beis Yosef understands the prohibition is applying even to the same day. The language of Smak also applies a prohibition, unlike what he said. Now, that Rambam prohibited defilement nowadays, also against what he says and what we brought, at least rabbinically, and we saw that maybe even biblically. And he brings the Mishnah Lamelech in Hilchos Abel. Explicitly, one cannot combine the opinions of Yirei and Smak to Yirei and Sfek Sveka.
What's the difference between the same day and the next day?
The difference, some hold that the repeated defilement is not on the same day. You're defiled today.
It's no additional.
More Shemesh V'ter, in other words, that day you're defiled. That's it. Start a new day. new page, new daf.
Shemesh, but that's only after tefillah.
Right, fine, but here they have the same concept. I didn't see the reasoning there that repeated defilement would only be on the same day you're defiled. On the following day, but most agree that even on the same day. Gora's idea of wearing a necklace is no solution, because it is still prohibited for a kohen to increase tumas out of the air corpse, as we brought. The bottom line is, that doesn't help you, because the psak we brought was, bottom line, you're not allowed, the kohen is not allowed to redefile himself. He disputes those who contend that just as a kohen may defile himself by leaving the land of Israel for a purpose of livelihood, we brought in the past weeks. And what happened is there for a kohen to go to Chutz La'aretz, to go to diaspora? There it's Amim is Tameh, it says in Shulchan Aruch. And it says the kohen is not allowed to go to Chutz La'aretz. And there we bring...
Israel is not allowed to leave Israel.
Right, even Israel is not allowed to, but just as the Israel is allowed to leave for three things, for learning Torah, to get married, or for Parnasa, and even though it's permitted, the Rambam says, still Machla and Nechilya were punished because a person who is a true God-fearing Jew will not leave anyway, and the Chazon Ish Paskins that way l'alacha.
And the Rambam lived in Egypt.
The Rambam,
That's where he made his panos.
that's not why he went there. The Rambam writes that, first of all, the Rambam says that I came to Eretz Yisrael on this and this day, and then I went on the great danger, and then I went to Jerusalem, and I went to Har Habayis to the Mount Moriah on the tremendous sakana, and then I went to Hebron tremendous sakana. These 3 days I declared a Yom Tov, a holiday for me, my children, until the end of mankind, a day of feasting and celebrating. So one, the question I would is how is the Rambam allowed to put himself in danger to do these 3 things? We'll leave that for now. But then he moved to Alexandria, and the Radvaz writes that the Rambam was very harsh on himself.
He refers to himself as a chote.
Right, so the Rambam writes, he's made on his father, he testifies that from the day that my father left Eretz Yisrael to Egypt, he signed every letter. He many a Rambam from me, the Rambam was over the Gimel Av Mochoyom, who transgresses 3 hours every day. My guess is he didn't go to a non-kosher restaurant in the movie theater. But the Raiva talks about that. So yes, the Radvaz felt he was allowed to, and he did not go for Parnasa. He went because to be Marbit's Torah, and the Radvaz says that because they needed a Torah. In any case, Dr. Rosner pointed out very well, every Jew, it's forbidden for him. And even if he does go, in Rambam Paskins, or he passed away, it has to be with the intent of returning. I know a lot of Israelis who went to America on the intent.
He can only learn with the Kohol on Shabbos,
Right.
because the whole week he's busy with the Sultan.
Okay, a famous letter of the Rambam. When Ibn Tibon wanted to visit the Rambam, he says, there's nothing more bring me greater joy than to meet the man who translated my Lord Nebuchim. But to say that I will be able to sit with you for 5 minutes or whatever is not realistic, and describes his day. I get up 6:30 in the morning, and I go to the Sultan, and I treat him, and if he's okay, he had constipation, and if he was okay, I treated the rest of his court, and then I came home, and there was a line around the corner. I apologized, and I washed my hands. I didn't eat anything all day, and then I saw these people, and these were only non-Jews. Jews I only saw on Shabbos. And Dr. Rosner points out very well, he does not give 5 minutes of learning the whole day. Now, was he able to learn in his head while he was working? Or did he write Mishnah Torah when he was 16 before he became a doctor? Probably. But you see here that, yes, his brother who supported him, again, shockingly, we know nothing about his wife or his mother. Makes no mention of his wife anywhere. I finally got a book recently on the Rambam that I wish I had time to
He
read.
was born there at Pesach. I think his mother died in childhood.
His mother died in childhood. Okay, I'm not familiar. Could be you know more about the Rambam than I do, because you wrote, Dr. Rosner wrote the book on. My mind is in English. In any case, I read this book recently that it was not appropriate in Muslim countries to mention the women of your life. And in fact, there's no
Even the mother?
There's no mention. There was no. I don't know. He mentions his father, his grandfather. He gives the whole lineage all the way back to the Yotzei Gon Shalayim, Ovadia, all the way back to the exile of Jerusalem. Be it as it may, says Rav Goren, says, where were we here? He also argues that moving out of Israel to avoid monetary laws violates only a rabbinic prohibition as comparable to a violation of Torah prohibition of corpse defilement. Let's go back because I think I skipped something. Yes. A Kohen may also defile himself by participating in dissection as part of his professional preparation. So he disputes that. It's not legitimate as we saw before. He explains that this leniency does not apply when one has the ability to plan in advance for his livelihood. It's one thing if it's because nefesh, you don't have what to eat, and you need to do certain things to make a livelihood. But to go and be over Nisra Chakila, to transgress, to violate, there's no heter for whatsoever. Yes, Dr. Rosner pointed out that one could go to learn Torah at Chutz La'aretz, and the question becomes, ain't Torah Eretz Yisrael? Why would you go to Chutz La'aretz for Torah? The Gemara says in two places in the Avodah Zarah, two different gerses, and what that means in that gerse is two different times. One is not everybody's soul is into Zvachim. Okay, one guy has a brisker soul, one person has an halachic soul. What's the difference if you're learning Zvachim or halacha? The main thing is you should learn Torah. So, if you're a Rebbe, and therefore, since you're not going to learn from every rabbi, from every Rebbe, therefore, ad kadei kach, we allow you to go to Chutz La'aretz. But he says this is not parable. He does not accept Rav Goren's position. He cites a Moshe Feinstein who opined that there is no obligation. He opined that there is no obligation on anybody to study medicine, like we said about the FDR drive, which is where Rav Moshe lives, in order to help people or save lives, and that the possibility that one may eventually save lives is not categorized as because nefesh. The study of medicine itself is not a mitzvah. Wow. The study of medicine itself is not a mitzvah. I've encountered several Gedalia Yisrael who said to me differently, at least three. The Biala Rebbe Shlita, the Talmud Rebbe Shlita, Rebbe Zazatzal, and the story was as follows, one of them. But both the Biala and the Talmud said to me, when one is studying medicine, one is studying Torah. And how did the question start?
I'm not from Boston.
No, the Talmud, he was the same family, Oliver Shalom, and the Talmud Rebbe Yerushalayim. In any case, I was at a bar mitzvah of Rav Pinchas Abu Chatzir Shlita, and it was on a Thursday. And Rabbi Lazar asked a question from the Chavetz Chaim. It says in the Gemara, Bishma said, when should I study Yavanis? When should I study Greek
Language of the
philosophy, Greek teachings. So he said, when it's not day and not night. Says the Chavetz Chaim, what do you got to go like this for? What do you got to go back and say, let us study. What do you mean, it was not day one night? You're Polish, you're Jewish teretz. So he said, he gave a story. There was a tailor who had an apprentice, and his apprentice was studying by him, and one day he caught him that he was selling suits for 20% less. So he called in the student, and he said, listen, you should be a tailor, gesundheit, rent yourself a shop, go across the town, buy yourself some patterns, get yourself a scissor, and parnassus from Shemayim. But in my shop, with my scissors and my patterns, says the Chavetz Chaim, that he did not want to, I'm sure didn't want to get into whether you should go out to study Greek education or not. He said, with my day and my night, says the Vilna Gaon Negra, you want to deny my existence? Fine, but don't use the mouth I gave you. Okay? That's a Talmud Vishos Biyado. And similarly, it's brought in the Ramak in Talmud Dvara. So I was very alarmed, because, we studied that.
Shimon Zakein, and, translated the Vulgate.
Dr. Fred Rogers is opening up a Pandora's box. I hope I'll remember the answer from Montefiore. He asked your question. But as I was saying, so I was there on Tuesday, and I was very shaken. I said, what about a doctor studying medicine? And he slammed on the table. He said, a doctor studying medicine is studying Torah, not Yavanis, not Greek. But Montefiore brought your argument. In the old Yishuv, in the Yishuv Yoshan in Yerushalayim, there was no secular studies. In fact, when the Sri Deish was confronted He was a student of Piaget, the great psychologist.
Close the yeshiva rather than.
Right, close it, or Volozhin, they said, we'll close the yeshiva and we won't allow secular studies. But the Swedish didn't agree with Chaim Volozhin. We got Dovid, where you running, where you running? Not that. Is, yeah, and then we got the summary, no? Okay. In any case, the Swedish says you have to have secular studies, you have to learn a profession, etc., etc. So somebody asked him in a child, he says, what about the old Yishuv Yerushalayim? He said, hey, no, Yerushalayim. Leave the Yerushalmis alone. They're a different thing. But in general, you need them. So Montefiore Montefiore, page 281, Montefiore wanted to give a nice contribution to the old city of Jerusalem, and on the condition they would learn secular studies, 281. So Montefiore, so they said, no way, of our...
He's buried here in Israel.
Right. Oh, now you opened up another tshuva in Yabioma, and you open it up, we have to answer, for Rosner we have to answer. Let's do one thing at a time. Said we're talking about corpses, said the Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld, whoever it was, he said, over my dead body, we're not having secular studies here, keep your money. Said Montefiore, if Mordechai would not have understood Persian, he would have never saved the day. Because he overheard the conversation. He said, thank God he learned. So he said exactly the opposite. But there's a proof that you can't study. Because if they knew that Jews knew Persian, they would have never spoken behind his back. They spoke behind his back because they knew that Jews did not learn Persian. Why did Mordechai learn Persian? For the reason like the Rosner said, because he was one of the Shivim Skenim, and they had to learn all of the Chachmas, because sometimes the case comes before you and you need to know this. So getting to the next question. Says Dr. Rosner that Montefiore's bones were brought to Israel. True. Big fight. It says in the Zohar, the Chipra ad Mosa Amo, it says, woe to the person who dies in the diaspora and brings his body to Eretz Yisrael. You came to defile my land. We're talking about defiling. You come to defile my land, stay where you are. And I know cases where I was involved in the Dome said, leave them over there, don't bring them here. What's the loophole? Zohar says, and the land will shake you off like it shakes a talus off of its filth. Don't come here. You didn't come when you could, don't come here now. Klosenberg Rebbe, wow. Well, he could say something like this. Those who didn't come in their lifetime are not coming by Mashiach either. He said, Jerusalem will go to Borough Park, but you're not coming to this Jerusalem. You didn't come when you could. I showed that to Rabbi Riskin, he became a Klosenberg Chassid on the spot. Or on the plane, I showed the Klosenberg Rebbe inside of the Chumash Rosh Hashanah. In any case, there was a big fight. How could you bring Montefiore's bone? So there's a loophole in the Zohar. The Zohar says, Elohim is kasha, a loophole literally in the talus that shakes you off. That if a person had a connection in his lifetime, but he didn't come, could be family reasons, could be financial reasons, could be psychological, good reasons, okay, is he had a longing, a desire. And here I'll bring a famous marshal that I always like to bring. Is such a person can't come, and therefore Mandel says I had to bring somebody who all his life longed to come, but whatever, practically could be reasons why a person is not zocher to come. Or not zocher to come. What they want to tell you, I forgot.
Montefiore.
No, what did we say? So they had to was to bring him because he, of course, had a tremendous longing to come to Israel. Rav Moshe Feinstein opined that there is no obligation on anybody to study medicine. He claimed the study of medicine is not a mitzvah. There are those who argue. He was with his Lithuanian approach, his Lithuanian head, and they more of a Hasidic approach. Al-Bechol Drochecha De'ehu. There's a beautiful, beautiful Ramban I discovered after the airport. I met a Rabosha from Ramat Shlomo, and he showed me a Ramban. He said it was an Akev, it wasn't there, but today he sent me it's worth looking up because it's worth seeing inside. Give me a second. I did not look it up yet, but the way he quoted it verbatim, it was just beautiful. The Ramban is in Dvarim Perek Vav Pelik Yud Gimel, chapter 6, verse 13, and he goes extensively into what Chassidus Bechlal goes into. He doesn't go up here, but the Rambam goes into, elaborates in Hilchos Deos, Al B'chol Drochecha Deo. The Morainayim, for example, is very strong on that. On serving God is not with Torah and Tefillah. That's of course. Serving God is the way you sleep, the way you eat, the way you talk, the way you walk. Everything is Torah. Everything is Torah. My wife always says, you turn everything into Torah. I said, yeah, that's what you're supposed to. You go to a baseball game, you can justify it, then turn to Torah. If not, don't go.
The last of the 613 mitzvahs.
Okay, we got 3 minutes.
So you gotta follow the ways
You
of
have to
God.
walk in the way of God. Rav Hershel Schachter is also disapproving of Goran's approach based on several of the reasons already cited. He most notably objects because of the interpretation of Torah prohibition of nefesh. We're on page 282. Flying pages here. You gotta get on 282. Rav Hershel Schachter is also disapproving of Goran's approach based on several of the reasons already cited. He most notably objects because of his interpretation of Torah prohibitions of nefesh, lo yitame ba'amov, and lo sekarv lameis. As explained earlier, these verses may forbid both an already defiled and a non-defiled kohen from approaching a mass in a way that might lead to tumah. Rav Schachter opined that since this is a possible Torah violation, some of the rights to be obliged to rule strictly. Footnote 119 of Halpern mentions the lenient opinions under specific circumstances. We saw there, they said, as a general rule of 3 Talmidei Chachamim, Rav Mordechai Cohen, who allows Kohen to study medicine based on the principle of Bikulah Nefesh. Rav Halpern stressed that major poskim disagree with Rav Cohen. The solution of Rav Cohen here to Rav Halpern points out that the heter is controversial. He adds that according to Isaac Levi Herzog, although one should not rely on the lenient opinions, and this is a killer, not killer, this is a blessing. If one does, he is not branded a sinner. And this is very important relative to Kohen, not to say that, you know, you defile the Gemara.
Some of the
Is that
people go to medical school.
Ye shall
Kohanim
eat the smoke?
say, I've heard
So
some
he's saying,
guys-
he's saying, ain't a meal smoke, but if you
They
did,
quote
then
this-
ayalech al meal smoke.
They quote the sets of I've heard some.
Right,
Those who go to medical school
really.
knowing that they really shouldn't.
Okay, so he's saying you cannot rely on it, but if you did, it's not right to look at him as a sinner. Next time, Mr. Hashem, we will do the summary on page 284, and then we will do the miscellaneous, and then, Mr. Hashem, we will move on to the other sefer we discovered on dental halacha. And again, those who would like the 1943 who are well versed in Yiddish are welcome to request such. We'll be happy to forward such to you. Thank you very much.
Right.